I'm making a multiplayer first-person shooter game called Voidbound. In it, you fight off demonic creatures in order to survive. The game's inspiration comes from Doom, Call of Duty Zombies, Dusk, and Overwatch. You get to choose between 3 characters and each of them will have their own unique abilities. I intend the game to have fast-paced movement and your main objective to be to survive with your friends for as long as possible, while upgrading your guns and facing difficult creatures as the waves pass. I've been working on it for a bit more than a month now, and it's my first ever big project, and it's just making me realize how much work will actually need to go into this. I still don't have all the details fleshed out, but have a rough idea plan on how I want the game to go. To start off, I wanted to get the movement right. So after tinkering around with it, I added this camera tilt when strafing left and right, which helps the movement feel more responsive. It's in a decent state right now, and I'll work on adjusting how fast a player can move later on. I want to integrate multiplayer right off the bat, since doing it later on can become a really tedious job and a headache to deal with. There are many multiplayer solutions out there, but I decided to go with Netcode for game objects because it's Unity's official networking solution and they seem to want to support it in the long run. Well, I hope they do, because we all know what happened with Unet. I want to get all the initial setup done, and so I'm going to integrate it with Steam. I have to just read these Steam docs and understand how to do it. I mean, like, how hard can it be? So after setting up Netcode for game objects and integrating it with Steam, I now have 2 players that can join each other. It only took like 5 days. On the bright side, we now have at least some multiplayer foundation set up and can just keep building upon it. Right now, the movement is client-side authoritative, and in simple terms, that means it's really easy to hack. The ideal solution is to make it server authoritative and implement client-side prediction, but I'll either deal with that later on or just make it so that you can join using your friends only. So if you hack, then it's just your friends you're trolling. I haven't really thought of which side I'm going to take yet, but I'll put it to my future self to decide. I looked at different types of games on how the recoil is done, where some of them have a preset defined recoil pattern and some games have it procedurally done on the fly. Since in my game there's 3 different characters with each of their own separate sets of guns, I decided to go with the procedural recoil route. This way I don't need to manually animate each gun's recoil and can just attach this script and tweak it to fit the gun's needs. Big shout out to Gilbert, who has a great tutorial on this that I used to learn from. I found some audio clips of gunshots and threw them into Audacity, but I actually had no clue what I was doing and just applied random effects to it, and now somehow it sounds pretty decent. I really like projectile based bullets where you visually see where the bullets are flying off to, and this way when I work on being able to upgrade the guns, I can have different projectiles being shot out. So I worked on making a projectile base as well as adding hit particle effects and bullet shells to come out of the gun, and so now it looks like this. I want to work on some basic areas that can emulate how the map will look and play out. I'm thinking of there being some sort of big facility and attached to it being outside area with a forest. The areas will be blocked off and you'll need to earn cash to open up more areas of the map. So I started designing off a small test room and modeling some props in Blender. I also spent time making some decals that I'd be able to place on the walls. I made the smiley face as a joke, but I kind of like it now. Maybe I can do some type of Easter egg with it. Oh wow, would you look at that? There's some grass outside. This is a small outside area that I made where the ground was sculpted using Unity's terrain system, and I've been messing around a lot with the post-processing effects and the lighting to really help with the overall game feel. I've been making all this progress and yet we have no enemy in the game still. So I started out modeling out the most common creature that will spawn. I added some teeth and give it more dimension to give it a more aggressive look. I need a name for this creature and I can't really think of one off the top of my head, so let me message my mate Bargy, who is famous for naming things. So he's just responded and he said Ligma. Ligma balls. Yeah, I don't really know what he meant by that, but hey, at least it's named Ligma now. Before I bring it into the game, I came across this level design book from Tychobolt on Twitter, as well as this Doom PDF containing how they planned and made the game. Both of these have really valuable information which I should really learn from, But you know, I got that Gen Z attention span where after reading like 2 lines, I get distracted. I haven't planned out the whole map yet, and so right now I just want to make these small pieces that I can build upon later and join them to see how they'll fit together. These have been small areas that I've been making, so I designed a bigger area with slanted pillars to act as support, and this lowered centered area where maybe some type of boss fight could take place. For that reason, I have a hole in the ceiling where the skybox light can come through, and maybe some big demon would be able to jump in from it. But coming back to Lingma, I brought him in and started working on an AI script for it. The idea is that they'll be spawning from something called the Void, hence the name Voidbound, and crawl into the facility through the holes and then find the nearest player to them and chase them down. The enemy's health and damage will increase as the waves progress, but that whole wave system I'll come to implement later. I found this game called Ultra Kill where there's a high presence of blood particles flying around when shooting, which I kind of like and helps with the overall game feel. So yeah, we now have blood particle effects when shooting. I had mentioned earlier that I'll come around to refine the movement to be faster, so I finally came around to doing that and implemented sliding because I think this movement mechanic suits the game. I also spent time setting up a Steam page, and it's a very early version just to get the ball rolling. But nevertheless, go wishlist the game right now. The page is live, linked in the description. It literally takes 3 seconds and will help the game immensely with the Steam algorithm. There are more things that I was working on that I'm just not done yet, such as these arms that I started modeling after getting a suggestion from a member from my Discord server, which you should totally join by the way to give feedback and get a behind the scenes look. My schedule has been mostly working my full-time job, hitting the gym, and then working on Voidbound. Obviously, stuff comes up sometimes, but I'm trying to stay focused with the limited time I get. The game is still early in development and I have a lot of stuff planned for it, so subscribe to stay tuned with the development, and I'll see you in the next one.